guys. So welcome to Thursday, the fourth live stream we have this week. And I'm super excited to be here as usual. I'm just thrilled actually. Because I think when I first started my staging business, there was really no social media. So it was super nice now. There's a lot of social media and different tools that we can all interact with. It used to be we only see people we know through online blogging communities like Active Rain, and we only see each other at conferences. So I actually really love doing these kind of live streams because it's a really great way to meet and see people that I see on the internet all the time. And hopefully one day we can all meet in real life. But anyway, so it's about 10 o'clock. I see a couple people are hopping on the live stream already. Hi, Cheryl. And hi, First Impression Home Staging. So if you have any questions, just save it till the end. I will answer that at the end of the live stream. Or I'm going to be publishing the recap post on Instagram and on Facebook as well. So you can also pop your comment and question there, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. All right. So today we're going to talk about common mistakes that turn buyers off. Essentially buying a house is a huge decision. It's not like going to Target buying a pair of socks for $5. It's a lot of decision making. So, and it's something that we are going to be in debt with, pretty much for the majority of our life. A typical mortgage is about 30 years. So I think it's really, really a big decision in anyone's life when it comes to buying a house. That's why when they're going through the buying process, anything that they feel off about the house can be easily an excuse for them not to buy that house. It's less so in competitive markets because in competitive markets, there are a lot of offers coming in. So people want to do the best to get that offer, that dream house they want as much as they can. But still, as stagers, we want to eliminate any potential doubts that the buyers may have about buying this particular house. Our job is really to showcase the home as much as we can and to make sure that the buyers can understand what is the best way to maximize the home's potential. And this is why we spend so much time learning design theories and concept and compositions to make sure that buyers understand and to make sure that our staging looks both great online and also offline in person as well. And this is why we have to pay attention to common pitfalls that may turn buyers off when it comes to buying the house. So I see a lot of common mistakes, and usually they fall into two categories. So the first category has to do with technical issues. So these are usually technical mistakes that stagers make or real estate agents make when they're doing their own listing. So one of the most common things has to do with proportion and scale. So this is very important. When we see this a lot actually, especially because I worked in the starter home market, so I work with a lot of first-time home buyers or first-time home sellers. And usually they're young couples, they're kind of scared of their walls. So you will walk into the condo or the house, there's literally nothing on the wall, or they have a tiny, tiny little picture from when they got married or something like that on a really big wall. So that's one of the issues we commonly see in scale of proportion is when people hang up artwork. So this is really important. So there are a few different ways to hang up artwork, obviously. If you Google how high you're supposed to hang the artwork, most people are going to say eye level. And if you're a super tall person, like you're taller than your average like classmate or people you work with, usually you want to hang it a little bit lower because we're talking about an average American person's, or whatever market you're working in, an average person's eye line. So I'm 5'4", so I usually I just basically eyeball most of the things. Sorry. I don't really measure a lot, but if you do want to measure, they say it's between 57 inches to 60 inches from the bottom up. So it's really important to understand where exactly they hang artwork. If you go to a museum or art gallery, for example, the artwork or the photography is always hang at eye level, unless they're doing a huge grouping. But even so, the center of the grouping is still at an average person's eye level, so that people can view the artwork and understand what it's all about, right? So similarly, when you're working in homes, it's the same thing. And the artwork also has to be proportionate to the wall and also the furniture nearby. So everything that we put into staging, it can feel disconnected, because when it feels disconnected, it's going to turn buyers off. They're going to feel something is off. They may not be able to pinpoint exactly what it is, but it makes them uncomfortable. When people feel uncomfortable, what are they going to do? They're going to want to leave. So that's kind of a negative connotation when it comes to buying a house. But of course, it's not like every single little mistake is going to be a deal breaker, but we just want to minimize as many as we can, because you never know. You never know what people don't like or do like. But like I said earlier, so everything in your grouping has to make sense. They also have to relate each other. So when you're hanging artwork above furniture, for example, like a sofa or a console table, it can't be too far apart from it. It needs to be connected. In console table, where we have table accessories like vases or flower arrangement on the table, you can hang the artwork a bit higher to create this height effect in your staging, because it's not completely disconnected. You have the artwork, you have the table, and you have all these accessories in between. So they're still connected. But with a sofa, it's different. And this is why when you're hanging, I usually measure it by my hand. So it's basically the length of my hand, pretty much. And that's usually the rule of thumb that I have. So I don't want to hang the artwork way too high away from the couch, because then it's going to feel disconnected. The other thing too is maybe the artwork you have, it's too small for the wall. That's not a problem. You can have similar artwork come together and use them as a grouping. That you can hang two side by side, or you can hang a triptych. You can hang 4, 5, 6 if it's like a really long hallway. As long as they're on the same level, the repetition of shapes is actually going to create a leading line when people are viewing from one end of the room to the other. So it's going to help them direct the eye line to the focal point of the room. And this is why it's always very nice if you look at high-end luxury homes, when they have a really big wall, it's really important to have this one piece of very large, impactful artwork. Boom, immediately you have a very strong focal point. So this is one of the ways to achieve that for you. On the free training next Tuesday, I'm actually going to show you an example of a hallway, what I'm talking about when we're hanging different, like similar shape of artwork on a long hallway, because it creates a repetition of shape, and it also helps you draw the eye line toward the end of the hallway, which is the focal point in that very long, narrow box, basically. So proportion and scale is incredibly important. And proportion and scale also works on a room level. So if you have a couch that is oversized, it's going to make people feel very overwhelmed. If you have a couch that's just perfect, it's going to help people to come together in the space and to understand how they can utilize it. The other thing also has to do with traffic flow. So when it comes to open houses, the first brokers open and the first open house is the most important. These are the two most important open houses for selling this particular house. And during these first two open houses, there are going to be a lot of people. And we're talking about hundreds of people. So there's going to be a lot of people all together under the same roof. So that's also why you want to pick furniture that has the right proportion and right scale according to the room. Because if it's too big, it's going to feel overwhelmed. It's also going to be crowded. People just naturally going to feel like, oh, this living room is very small. I can't really entertain. And my buyer really wants to entertain people. So this is not a good choice for them. Or this kitchen is too small. I can't cook in here. Blah, blah, blah. So this is why proportion and scale is very important on pretty much all levels you're looking at when you're standing in the room or when you're looking at a photograph. So when you are when you're selecting your inventory, you really have to think about, is this the right size for the furniture? A lot of times when we're working with redesign or occupy staging, the homeowner might have a sectional. So one of the common ways I resolve that is to break their sectional apart, because they're still sofa, right? People can still sit in them. But for the staging purpose, we might not need the whole entire section. We can take out one section and maybe utilize in another place in the home. Like for example, a lot of sectional has this extra arm part where the chaise lounge chaise lounge chair is, and you can use that in a master bedroom if you have room, Or if there's no room to put it in the home, you can always have the homeowner put into storage or the garage. So there are different ways to break up a shape visually to make it proportional to the room and the space that you're working in. And I talked about earlier with artwork, you can create that shape through grouping. So a lot of times maybe you don't have enough of a big enough artwork for a really big wall. A really nice gallery type of grouping is also very good when it comes to staging the home. The other thing that a lot of realtors mention is the size of a dining room table, and also the size of the bed. If you have a very large master bedroom, it doesn't make sense you're using a full-size bed or even a queen-size bed. We use King actually a lot. They're put together by two twins. In a really large high-end luxury homes, people want a big master bedroom bed. It's kind of like signifying luxury and comfort. You know, when you walk into a hotel room, you feel so special because that room looks like that bed looks so luxurious and amazing. All you want to do is jump on it or lie in it immediately. And it's the same thing of the atmosphere we're trying to create, the lifestyle we're trying to create when we're staging. So it's really important that your bed is very proportionate to the room that you're staging. If the room is really big and the bed is not big enough, obviously, you can always add on by having nightstands on each side. Or other furniture as well, like a seating arrangement, for example, to extend the size of the bed visually. You can put a bench at the end of the bed. So there are different ways for you to really figure out how to make the room feel proportionate. Same thing with dining room table. I think dining room table thing is more psychological because one of the, on last season's podcast in season 9, I interviewed a top producer in California, Courtney, and she was amazing. She owns this real estate brokerage in LA. And one of the biggest things she mentioned is dining room table. That's actually one of the criteria she would use to judge if the stager is good enough. Because if a dining room table is too small, it only seats 2, for example, the buyers would think, oh, well, the dining room is very small. I mean, I can't have a lot of people coming over or entertaining. Immediately, it becomes a negative. And so she always wants a dining room table that seats at least 4 to 6 people for the type of homes that they're selling. So it's really important if you have a 4-bedroom house, you wouldn't want to put a table of 4 in it. You want to put a dining table that is proportionate to the inhabitants in the home. So that's a really biggie I see when real estate agents talk about staging, is that they always want a proportionate dining room table. They want a big dining room table in terms of the number of seats that it can accommodate, if that makes sense, right? Okay. So the other big category that I see is cultural insensitivity. And I understand it's really difficult when you're staging outside your culture. And I see this as a problem also in our industry because there's still not a lot of people of color in our industry in general. And so there's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding when we have to step outside to stage someone else's culture. So my advice for that is to really do your research in terms of what that demographic is looking for. And personally, I was born and raised in Taiwan, and so a lot of people, we share a lot of cultural similarity with Chinese. And I can tell you that when I see, because there's a lot of Chinese buyers coming into North America market, it's one of the biggest pain point I think a lot of non-Chinese stagers face when the real estate agents say well, I need you to be able to appeal to Chinese buyers. But one of the misunderstandings I see is that people always feel like, oh, I need to go to buy a bunch of books on feng shui and then feng shui the house. The thing is, feng shui is a very, very complex subject. There are many different factions and practices of feng shui. Some feng shui uses mirrors like the bagua mirrors and props, and some feng shui do not use that at all. And some feng shui say we should do this a certain way. Some feng shui say we should do this a certain way. It's a very complex subject. People spend years, years studying for it. Buying a book on it is barely scratching the surface. And so I really encourage you when you're staging for different culture, don't rely on the stereotypical things that you hear. Like, oh, like Chinese people must like red. No, I mean, like I was born and raised in Taiwan, and I love real estate, obviously, because I still work in real estate. And when I go home to Taiwan, I look at model homes. A lot of model homes don't have any red in them, like, to be honest. I mean, it's all about the buyer's demographic. Just because someone is a Chinese person or Asian, that does not necessarily mean that they like red. So red in my culture, it's signify auspiciousness and prosperity. But most modern people, we only wear red during the New Year. It's part of the old tradition. And like, for example, I wear a jade bracelet or bangle. This is something that is considered very traditional. A lot of young people don't do that anymore. But I find personally, I love it, but I'm also 40 years old. I'm not like, I think most millennial buyers nowadays or younger Chinese generation, they're not really wearing stuff like this. For me, it's something that my mom given me, and it means a lot to me. But in my culture, it also helps to ward off bad energy, for example. So a lot of more traditional people, like a lot of older generations, like my mom's generation, a lot of them wear these. It's because it's a goodwill from the family, and it's to help you to ward off any like evil energy and stuff like that. It's really just for good luck. I wear it because it's important to me, it's important to my culture, but a lot of younger generations, they don't feel it that way. And also a lot of younger generations are not growing up with feng shui at all. China also has a very complex political background. They'd gone through Cultural Revolution, and during Cultural Revolution, stuff like feng shui was forbidden. Like you would get into serious troubles for practicing feng shui. And so there's a serious disconnection with that for a lot of people in China. So I don't really feel that just because you're trying to appeal to the Chinese buyer, you have to go out and buy a bunch of books on feng shui. I mean, I read crazy stuff like you should have an empty space and put a lot of water in it, and then put in the highest point of the house. And when I read that, I told my mom started laughing. She's like, that sounds so crazy. And I was like, yeah, I know, right? But those are kind of the stereotypical things people do when they think, oh, I should do this to appeal to Chinese buyers. And for most people, they probably just feel like this is ridiculous. You clearly don't understand my culture. The other big thing I see is putting Buddha statues in staging. I personally am a Buddhist, and I respect my religion, obviously. And Buddha statue for me is a religious icon. I would never use someone else's religion in a decorative purpose. Like, I am not of Catholic, faith. I would never put a Jesus statue or a cross as a decorative object in my staging, because that's someone else's religion, and I want to be respectful of that. And it's the same thing with Buddha statues. I see people use that a lot in yoga rooms. And also, yoga is a spiritual practice. They don't believe in Buddha. So in a way, there's a lot of different cultural misunderstanding. I think a lot of it has to do with stereotypes. And I really strongly encourage you, before you use objects like that, to really think about, is this really going to add to the space? Let's say you want to do a yoga room, you want to make it look very serene and beautiful. You can do that through props, through yoga props, like having yoga mats, cork blocks. You don't have to put in a Buddha statue, not to mention it has nothing to do with yoga. There are many different ways you can create that through color story, through your other lifestyle accessories, to create a really beautiful and serene space to welcome buyers. And for an exercise room, I really don't see why you need to put a Buddha statue in it. So those are the two major issues and that I see when it comes to common mistakes people make in staging. But basically, at the end of the day, our job is here to create a beautiful interior that welcomes buyers and help them understand the maximum potential they can have with this house. And this is why every time when we're staging, we really have to walk into a room and think about what exactly is the right purpose for this room and what is the best way for us to present that. And this is why I really encourage you to focus on building the right floor plan. Because a lot of times, especially with tricky floor plans, and we're gonna talk about this tomorrow, with tricky floor plans, if there's a lot of angles in the room, what do I do to make the room feel less harsh, for example? Because a lot of angles actually can create a lot of tension unconsciously. And so what are some of the ways can we resolve that? So instead of focusing on like playing into these stereotypes kind of thing, I really strongly encourage you to work on the technical skills, like understanding design theories, like how does balance work? What are some different ways to create symmetry? So we have symmetry where we have mirror images. We also have asymmetrical images, asymmetrical placement, but still creates that symmetry. So what are some of the different ways and different techniques we can use to really make the focal point pop? How can we incorporate textures to build different layers in the room? And how can we make the space feels visually interesting and stimulating and welcoming, and to really grab onto buyers' attention and tell them this is the aspirational lifestyle they want to live in. So this is one of the things I really encourage you to focus on. So yeah, so those are the some common mistakes that I see happen all the time. So to recap, the first one is technical skills, mistakes in technical skills. So a lot of it usually has to do with scale and proportion. And the other one is cultural insensitivities. Yeah. So that's it for my topic today. Does anyone have any questions or any comments about anything I just said? Or are there some common mistakes that I missed? So I'm just going to scroll through the comments really quick. Let's see. All right. Brittany says, do you still work in real estate? Yes, I do. So I stage homes for about 12 years in San Francisco Bay Area. I actually, before that, I was a buyer's agent. And now I work in real estate, but strictly on educational basis. So I teach a lot of courses online through my company, stagemore.com. I also write a lot of blogs, so you can check out our blog. It's all like free business advice on like different marketing activities you can do. And then I also have a podcast called The Home Staging Show, where I interview top experts in the field, and we talk about pretty much everything about real estate. So I interview real estate agents, a lot of stagers, photographers as well. On the last season, we also interview a landscaper, and I just finished interviewing with someone who's in pest control. So I'm trying to hit a bunch of different topics in real estate to really help you guys to become better stagers. Because that's really my goal. Like I think through education, whether it's free or paid, it's really how we're going to change the industry. Because there are a lot of unethical stagers out there, unfortunately. There are a lot of unethical real estate agents as well. And so it is in my hopes through education to really help to change the industry that way. And I truly feel that the work of home staging is a life-changing business. You're changing the sellers' lives by helping them sell the house quicker and potentially for more money. And it's going to help them build a better future for themselves. So I think what we do is very, very powerful. It's not only just coming in to make the space looks good. And this is also why I feel like a lot of times sellers or agents may not value what we do, but it's important that we understand the value that we bring to the table and to fight for our value. And that's why I'm also encouraging you, if you're a new stager, don't undercharge in your market, because if you're undercutting in pricing, it's kind of a lose-lose strategy, because the client is not going to get the best product out there. You are also not going to be able to survive in the long term financially. So it's really important to do your homework to understand what are some of the price point range in your market, and when you're starting out, where you should be charging. All right. And Brittany asked, do you teach staging courses? So yes, I do. So most of the time now I teach online. So under Stage for More, we have the Cash and the Cushion course that we're launching next week, which actually brings me, it's a really good point actually, I forgot to mention this. I'm really bad about talking about myself. Sometimes I'm actually a very introverted person. So as like I'm really tongue-tied today for some reason. So for you guys who've been attending the live stream, there's actually a special bonus for you. If you go to cashandthecushions.com/411, you're going to see a way to buy the Cash and the Cushions course in advance. I'm also going to, in the page, I also outline exactly what goes on in the course. So everything we talk about during live stream this week, and also what I'm going to be teaching next Tuesday, it's a small part of the course actually. And as an attendee of the live stream, you get a $50 off bonus. So if you click the buy now button, it automatically will apply. You're also eligible in our giveaway. So next Tuesday during the live webinar, all the attendees and also all the attendees the live stream, if you purchase the course, you also get entered into a giveaway we have to give away our signature course. It's basically like a home staging business in a box course called Six Figure Floor Plan. You already own the course. You basically get the equivalent. You get a gift certificate for our shop for $898. So it's a really good deal going on right now. It's basically a launch special I'm doing for this course. After that, the course price is going to go up. So if you're interested in joining us, that's just 2 courses. In the fall, I'm actually going to be teaching in person as well. If you're based in London in UK, I'm actually moving to UK in the fall for my master's degree because I've always loved photography. It's something that I was always drawn to. My dad was an amateur photographer. He was like obsessed with photography. And so I kind of grew up with it and I never thought I could do it. And it was a decision that I made for myself because I went through my 20s really focusing on revenue and business, and it made me very, very unhappy. I always felt like I was not good enough. I was ashamed of, I just feel like my business wasn't good enough because I grew up, both of my parents had their own businesses and they were both successful in their own right. And so when I compare mine to theirs, who they spent, decades building, I just feel like I was a failure. And so in my 20s, I really had the wrong mindset when I was approaching my business. So in my 30s, I realized that's what I was doing wrong. And so I shifted my mindset in terms of what kind of business I really want to run. Like I thought I want to run a business like my dad's, where I had a lot of employees, a big warehouse, like trucks and all this stuff. And I realized that's not what I wanted at all. I actually really like doing starter homes. I hate doing big high-end luxury homes. The clients are a pain in the butt. I don't want to deal with them. They're usually divas. But there are people who love clients like that and they found really great luxury home clients, but not in my particular case. And so I really focusing on what I wanted to do in my business, and that shifted my business dramatically. It shifted my business from struggling to a 6-figure business. And I had a lot of help. I have business coaching, and I had a lot of mentors that really helped me build my business. And so a lot of that I put into the 6-figure floor plan. So that course is really about setting up the right systems. I actually had the chance to work for Michael Gerber, who wrote E-Myth, and he is all about system. And so that really helped me. And so I put a lot of that in the 6-figure floor plan course. And back to my personal life. So I wanted to pursue photography, and I started in 2016, I took some time off traveling and realized I really like photography and I really want to shoot. And I went to a blogger's workshop. Her name is Beth Kirby. She has a really strong Instagram presence. She also has a really well-known food blog called The Local Milk. And she actually encouraged me to pursue work as a photographer. And I never thought I could do it. And I start working now as a photographer, and I really, really enjoy it. And that's really where a lot of inspiration for Cash and the Cushions come from, because I really see the difference. Like having worked on photo shoots, I really see the difference it makes when you're understanding styling and composition from both interior and also from a photography point of view. It really changed your portfolio as well. And so I decided in the fall, so I applied for this school in London for photojournalism, and I got in. So yay! But the other thing too is I also got in contact with the university in London, and they are dying to have a home staging course. So in the fall, starting September, I'll be teaching at a local university as well in London. So if you're based in London, come say hello. Yeah, so that's a really long answer for your question if I still teach staging courses. And Angela says, love your lives. I'm in Brazil and have an opposite problem. Bedrooms are very small and nowadays everyone wants a queen bed. I'm afraid if I use a standard bed, buyers will be ... And I totally understand that. So we run into similar issues as well. Because in San Francisco, I usually work in starter home area. So we have a lot of older homes, especially they're tract homes. And then also a lot of homes in San Francisco, they used to be Victorians and Edwardians. And so these homes naturally have smaller layouts because back in the time, back in the 19th century, people are smaller also. So in that case, I will actually explain to the client. So one of the things I did was, one of the times when client requested this, I brought in a queen size bed as he requested, but I also brought in a bed, a slightly smaller, like a double size or full size bed, to show the space to the client. I told them that, look, we put a queen size bed in and we put a nightstand in. And then you can see physically, I took a picture of it from my cell phone and I texted him. I said, physically, you can see the difference between A and B. So which bed would you choose? And then he wrote back and said, yes, the smaller bed, you're right. So a lot of times clients may not understand it when you tell them. So then you have to show them physically. And so next time when something like that happens, show them physically. You don't have to in that particular case, we have the manpower because I have movers and we have a van. So I was able to do that for my clients. And I saved those photos later on when someone asked me similar question. You can do that too, like in your own warehouse space or in your own bedroom, just to show, or in the client's room as well, just to show the difference. Like if we brought in the bigger bed, what would it look like for this? And do you feel like this is a better way to sell this particular room? If the client insists on doing it, sometimes you have to compromise. I know this is not what you guys want to hear, but ultimately, this is one of the things I learned from my mother. My mother was a dentist and she had her own practice. And one of the things she said really struck me about her business is that she approached it as the way she's a consultant. She's there to give the patients her professional opinions. It is up to the patient to listen to her or not. If she tells the patient that I think your wisdom tooth should be really pulled out because it's gonna, infect other, it's because it's gonna grow in a strange way, and it's gonna cause your gum to have inflammation and it's gonna cause infection. This is why I think it needs to be pulled. And the client chooses not to be pulled. That's their choice. They have to live with having a wisdom tooth not being pulled out and get an infection. That's their business. And it's the same thing with staging. As a professional, I can only do my best to tell my clients what is the best course to take here. In my professional opinion, in my training, based on everything I've learned in my life, I think doing this the way is the way to go. And if the client chooses not to listen, that is their business. They have to live with that consequence. So I really encourage you to first show the client what you mean through your professional opinion, through photos, and tell them exactly what you think is best for this particular house. But it is up to the client to listen to you or not. If they choose not to listen, don't take it personally and just say, I understand. And make sure you get that in writing in case the client comes back and is like, I don't understand. I told you not to put in this bed in. Why did you put this bed in? And you can show them, like you text me and said you already approved this decision. Okay, so I studied law in undergrad, so I'm always very paranoid. So everything when a client requests, I always want to get it in writing. Because ultimately in real estate, when something were to go wrong, your writing proof is the best proof you have when you have to defend yourself. So that's what I say when the clients come to you and say, I don't think this is the right bet for it. Show them visually and ask them which one they would pick. If they pick the one they want, that's fine. They're paying for it. So that's what I mentioned. Jen says, love your podcast. So much good info. Thank you so much. I'm always trying to improve. So if you guys have any suggestions on guests, feel free to drop me a message and leave a Facebook or Instagram comment. I would love to see you guys having ideas and stuff. And also, if you have specific guests that you want me to go after, please let me know. I would love to find new guests as well. First Impression Home Staging Inc. NC, sorry. Speaking of pricing, my biggest struggle is competing against stagers that undercharge. So this is a very common problem, and I would say that follow your guts, because you are a professional, you have all these training coming in, you have these expertise. And I think the biggest point is, this is one of the biggest thing I think, is that instead of thinking about competing, thinking about how you can stand out from your competitors. Because if clients are going to hire someone based purely on pricing, you're never going to win that. I mean, sure, you might win this job by undercutting the undercutter, but you are only going to suffer from it. So it is really important for you to do every single job to make profits. An aunt of mine is a real estate agent, and she hires me to do her staging all the time, or she used to when we used to do staging. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, she's my aunt, I should give her a really good family discount, right? But my aunt was like, no, make sure you make money on the job, okay? That's the whole point of having a business, is you need to make money on each job. So you might give a friends and family discount, but don't give like a crazy one where you're not gonna make money, right? 10% is fine. Obviously for my mom, I'll do it for free because she only gave birth to me, right? So, the only person you should always do your job for free is your mom or your dad. That's the only people you should. Other than that, friends and family, just give them a small discount. Don't give out too much. And the same thing with clients. Clients are always going to be like, can you give me a discount? I promise I will hire you for more jobs. Don't ever listen to that. If a client ever says that, run away, because they never will come back when you give them that cheaper price. So in our Instagram highlight, there's actually one that has scripts. There's a one script that I use for that particular one. You can look at it later. But basically it just says, great, like, we're happy to give you a discount, but we reserve our highest level of promotion for our highest level VIP clients. And they committed in contract to have a stage X number of houses a year. And if you want to do that, that's great. We can sign a contract for it. And usually these tire kickers would immediately disappear. Be like, oh, no, it's good. Your pricing is fine. So if you're interested about that script, feel free to check our highlights in Instagram on that. But anyway, coming back to pricing, I really just encourage you to figure out what are some of the things you do really well that your competitors are not, and focusing on making that really stand out in your marketing. Like one of the students I coach used to be an art consultant. And then so I told her that instead of trying to compete and then offer the same thing every stager offers, why don't you leverage your strength as an art consultant and approach seller's agent and say, hey, I know you represent a bunch of sellers, and also you probably have a lot of home buyers as well. I mean, I used to be an art consultant, now I'm a stager. What about if I come in and do some consultation for your high-end clients on what kind of art they can purchase and where they can hang their art, etc., etc. That's a very different way and different conversation to have with a real estate agent. And it's most likely going to be much more memorable than just be like, hi, I'm a new stager, and kind of come into your office and do a presentation. So you always want to think about what are some of the ways you can differentiate yourself from other people in your marketplace. I mean, this sounds really bad because when I was working, I really kind of didn't know who my competitors are because I'm really focusing on building my own business. And every time the client comes in like, well, but XYZ stager is charging less for more stuff. And I'm like, then you can go to XYZ stager. There must be a reason why the client's coming to me and trying to negotiate with me based on pricing. It's because they like my work. They don't like the other stager. And so you have to really think about focusing on what are some of the things you can do to really stand out. The other thing too is you can always say you're offering a limited time promotion. This is really important because you don't want to say, okay, I'll give you a discount this time. Because next time they're just gonna ask, well, what happened to my discount? Can you just give it to me again? But if you word it as a promotion, if you really, really want this job, for example, like you really want this job, and the stager comes in and try to undercut you, but you really want this job because you need this job for your portfolio to break into this different market, then just say, hey, I'm offering this promotion right now. I'm including photography, in the staging that you do, blah, 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 da, da, da. You can make up whatever it is. So those are some of the ways I recommend you to compete. Never compete based on pricing. Please, 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 please. This is just a lose-lose situation for everyone involved. The client's not going to get the product they want, and you are not going to make enough money to run your business. Okay, let's move on. So La Gonzalez Nieto says, what about home staging for rentals? Have you spoken about that already? I haven't. So one of the popular things people do nowadays is to stage for Airbnb. And so that can be a great income stream, because I know there are stagers like on the podcast, and Thea, she mentioned about staging Airbnb as an additional income source. So what she does is that she will sell the homeowners basically slightly used inventory. So it helps them to retire inventory from the warehouse and also give that inventory a new life, because now it doesn't have to be moved around anymore. So maybe it's slightly imperfect, but it's still very usable in an Airbnb setting. With an Airbnb, I really recommend you to focusing on creating the experience that potential renters want. So I have the fortunate, I'm very fortunate that I can travel a lot, and a part of it because I'm super single, so it's really easy for me to travel. And so I stay at a lot of Airbnbs naturally. And one of the things I always notice, the Airbnbs that get booked a lot is because they're focusing on the experience that people will have. So that can be very small things, like having a welcome bottle of wine on the table when I come in. I might not drink it, but I appreciate the sentiment. Same thing with a really well-stocked coffee and tea station, or like having little like chocolate on the pillows. That's always nice. Like I love chocolate. Or have a really nice fluffy bathrobe. I mean, a lot of times with Airbnbs, the people who are renting Airbnbs is because they want a local experience. So when you're staging those properties, why not involve local artists? There are a lot of people offering Airbnb experiences nowadays, like a painting workshop and stuff like that. You can consider like partnering with those people as well to kind of figuring out what are some of the best ways to really help to draw these having a really heightened level of experience. I mean, at the end of the day, when people are buying or hiring services, it's all about the experience that they're experiencing. And it's no different when it comes to Airbnb. Think about hotels, like high-end hotels versus boutique hotels, like the Ace Hotel. The staying there, the experience is going to be very different than staying at a Four Seasons. But why are all these hotels very successful, even though it's a very competitive market and very high cost as well? Like, I mean, it's high labor, high level inventory purchasing, and a lot of washing and, taking care of linens and all this stuff. So why are people successful? It's because they know their demographic really well. So when you're working with Airbnb homes for rental homes, you really have to talk to your homeowners to understand who are the potential people who are renting that particular home. So then you can create this experience that they always want to rent and will leave good reviews for. So those are some of the things you can think about when you're staging for rentals. And Markham Stager says, back to the topic today, what do you think about animals' head hanging from kids' bedroom walls? That's a very strong trend right now. We don't empathy with it at all. Good content, Cindy. So thank you, Markham Stagers. I would say do things that you think is right. If you don't like hanging animal heads on the bedroom walls, and even though it's trendy, then don't do it, because it's not who you are. The way I run my business, it has to come from my core values. Like, I have to do things I believe in. I'm a kind of a stickler for it. Like, I know, for example, I get this question at least once a week in emails that people are like, why don't you offer certification for your courses? Because I feel like a lot of certification, because coming from real estate agent background before, like real estate agents love like having alphabet soup. Like they love having like different acronyms like GRI, CSP, and all these different things. And most of these certifications, in my opinion, a lot of them are fluff, especially the real estate agent ones. they're just ways for schools to make more money. It's a marketing purpose. And a lot of times all you need to do is sit in a classroom for a day and then take a quiz that like sometimes the teachers feed you the answer for, and then you get your certificate. And for me, that makes no sense at all. And so when I run my own home staging school, I don't want to, like, I feel very strongly. I know even though it can make me more money, I just don't want to partake in that, because I feel like it's important for me to put out quality education every single time. Like, I really spend all the time on improving our courses and try to update it. And that's something that I'm really trying to make that my differentiate point from other traditional trainings who might not update for a very long time for their courses. And that's why, like, I really focus a lot on that in building out the curriculum and having maybe guest mentors coming in. Like for Six Figure Floor Plan, the mastermind version, where we do an 8-week live version, that I have coaching calls for 6 times during the 8 weeks. I also bring in guest mentors now to teach in areas that they really excel in, because I was a stager that focusing on starter home, and I was able to build a 6-figure business for that. But I'm not like good in every single different area of staging. Like, I didn't do a lot of occupy homes, for example. I didn't do a lot of consultation because I didn't like to do those things in my staging business. And there are other stagers who really excel in that, and luxury staging as well, or like they're experts who are in pricing. So I'd rather spend that 10 grand that I can use to get my course certified by association, and I put that into building better content for my students. And at the end of the day, this is your business. You run it your way. So if you don't like animal heads on walls, don't do it. That's not your style. I was just focusing on, building a consistent, like I talk about mood board in one of the live streams. I think is a super great tool, because you can build your own internal mood board, like basically your own lookbook, to like have this look and feel that you want your staging to have. And if you feel like, well, animal heads is trendy, but it doesn't really fit your aesthetics, then don't put it in. That's it. If the client requests it, then fine. But normally it's something that I would never buy in my inventory if something doesn't feel like it's right fit for our mood board. And this is why I really encourage you to, like, especially when you guys are going into wholesale buying, it's really important to know exactly what your style is and what kind of inventory you should buy. And like for our students, I encourage them to make mood board for their inventory, because especially when they go to shows, they can look at the mood board and know like, okay, this chair looks great, but it doesn't go with our style. Then we're not going to buy it. It's going to help you avoid a lot of mistakes when you're buying inventory, which is something I learned the hard way. So yeah. Okay. Jen asked, in homes with multiple bedrooms, can a couple remain empty? So that's one of the things. So when clients especially come back and say, hey, we don't have enough budget for this, we love your proposal, what can you do? So instead of staging the whole house, we'll only stage the key room. So that it's all the common area plus the master bedroom. So you should always stage the master bedroom, because whoever is buying that house, that's where they're gonna be sleeping. So they care about what that bedroom looks like. The other second, third, fourth bedroom, I mean, a lot of times it's fairly, it could be a guest bedroom or be an office or be kids' room and stuff like that. So it's not as important to have those staged. So I recommend you, if you are pick and choose which bedroom to stage, definitely pick the master bedroom. You should always stage that, because that's really where people who are gonna pay all this money to buy the house gonna sleep, and they care what it looks like. Okay. Angela says, thank you. Dawn says, thank you, you're amazing. Oh my gosh, thank you guys. That's so nice. La Gonzalez Nieto says, it'll be great if you did a course on old Victorian, old house in general. I think old house is a totally different game. So I actually studied interior design when I was in London 3 years ago. I was really a fan of University of Arts in London, so I went there to do their interior design courses. And that's actually how I met the instructor who introduced me to now teach home staging for them in the fall. But anyway, so one of the things London has a lot is old traditional buildings, old homes, old Victorians. And a lot of them, the walls are not like, for example, like, so our instructor told a story about one of their students. So their dining room was going through renovation. There was like these chips coming off the wall. It's a very old home. It was built in 1800s. And so in London, in UK, for example, any historical home, when it has to go through renovation, they had to hire specialists to come out to analyze the materials that were used to build the home. And so this particular house, they found out in the dining room wall, like it was made with chicken poop. Because back in the day, like, I mean, there's no cement, you know? So people had to use chicken poop to make walls. And one of the rules with historical home was they had to adhere to the traditional standard when they renovate. And then so now when they're doing the renovation to patch up the walls, even though now it's like year 2019, they had to put in chicken poop as well. They had to hire a specialist. And yeah, in a way, I think old house is a total different animal because you are dealing with like very different issues, like plumbing, for example, the building materials that used to be used may not be around anymore. And you have to, it depends on the homeowner as well. Some people want to tear them down. Some people want to keep in touch with the traditional fashion. And I interview this old house, the podcast owner. Oh my God, I'm blanking on her name. I'm so sorry. But she wrote this, but we interviewed her, I think it was the second episode, season 9, on old home. But she bought this 18th century home somewhere in the East Coast. And she's still living in there with her family of 4, or 4 children and her husband. And she's renovating as she goes. And I also follow her on Instagram. You should definitely check her out. Like, she's amazing. Like, she documents her whole process of renovating homes, like older homes. And she's really become an expert in knowing different finishes and sourcing also materials and then different hardware, different just type of things that all these different issues comes with dealing with older homes. So I encourage you, if you're interested in traditional homes, check out that episode, that interview, because I think it's going to shed a lot of light on dealing and working with those type of homes. But for me, that would be something I hire her to do on a course because she's amazing and I know pretty much nothing about older homes. BM Design says, trendy is the last stage before tacky. I mean, that's a really good point because trend goes out very fast. And that's the other thing too. Like, think about 80s fashion, for example. People had huge shoulder pads, you know, like my mom kept some of her clothes and they still have huge shoulder pads in them. But that was a trend, but it doesn't withstand the test of time. And so when you are picking finishes and materials, especially if you're going into project management or doing design work for builders, you really want to focusing on things that are maybe a little trendy is fine, but not the whole house is like all these kind of trendy materials. Like the whole Joanna Gang look is very in right now, the whole farmhouse chic. But I don't really think that's going to stand the test of time. I mean, once that falls out of fashion, it's out. And then you will have to immediately, like the whole house becomes outdated. So when you're picking things, I think for staging lifestyle accessories, yeah, hit the trend, especially younger generations, millennials, they love those trendy things. But with older generations, like you really need to figure out what are some of the timeless design elements you can put in to make sure people understand really the potential of this home. Okay, Cheryl says, great content I can listen to all day. Thank you. That's so nice of you to say. Actually, English is not my first language, and so sometimes I feel very awkward when I do a presentation. Especially today, I feel super tongue-tied for some reason. I think it's because we're going through a heat wave in California, and it's like super hot. And it makes me kind of like, ugh. So, all right. So, are any other questions or comments? So thank you so much for those of you who are joining us. And again, I'm going to post this replay once it finished processing on our Facebook page, and you can watch it in IG Live as well on our Instagram. I'm also going to put in a recap post on our Facebook and Instagram page. So you haven't followed us, go ahead and follow us. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments you thought of later, feel free to comment on these recaps and I'll be checking them throughout the day. So that's it. We have one last live stream tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about tricky floor plan. So please come on with your questions. And don't forget, I'm giving a free training next Tuesday feel free to sign up. Just go to cashandthecushions.com. And if you're interested in our Cash and the Cushions interior styling course, the sales page is live already. You can go to cashandthecushions.com/411. There's a special promo for you. If you click on the buy now button, there's an extra $50 discount for you for coming on the live stream. And then you are also going to be eligible in the giveaway of our signature course, the 6-figure floor plan course. I'm keeping it super down low because you guys been coming on the live stream every day, and I really appreciate your participation. And that's why I'm not publicizing the promotion publicly. And so please, if you're interested in the course, definitely do take advantage of the discount and the giveaway right now. I spend a lot of time and effort in these courses, and I'm always trying to make them better. So I really love to have you in our student community and to help you become the better stager you want to be. So thank you so much again for today, and I'll talk to you soon tomorrow.